Hello everyone. Today lecture deals with composting, vermicomposting, biomethanization. That is, in the previous lecture we see the collection and processing of the solid waste. The next one is the treatment of solid waste. The treatment of solid waste is carried out through composting, vermicomposting and biomethanization. It is nothing but in the composting, the conversion of organic substances in the MSW into a compost. In the vermicomposting, with the help of the earthworm, converting the organics into the compost. In biomethanization, under anaerobic condition, the organics are converted into the biogas, which mainly consists of methane and carbon dioxide. And all these three treatment process we will see in detail. First, composting. Composting is nothing but by the recycling of the organic waste in the MSW with the help of microorganisms, especially the bacteria and the fungi. It degrades the mixture of organic waste into a compost. The compost is effectively used for the soil conditioning by enhancing the properties, physical, chemical and the biological property of the soil, and also making the soil more nutrient, and also it makes the soil very resistant to the stress conditions. If there is a highly drought conditions, or it is affected by any of the weeds or some other external agent, or prevented if the soil is conditioned by the compost material. And the compost is carried out either aerobic or the anaerobic form. And we know in the aerobic, it is in the presence of oxygen. This is in the absence of oxygen. And while in the aerobic condition, there are some difficulties. We need to maintain the oxygen condition, that is the aeration, and also the moisture content. And also we need to protect the layer of the compost from the external environment, the sunlight and the weather pattern. Whereas in the anaerobic, we will overcome all these things. That is, it was totally covered. It was in the anaerobic condition. Thereby, it prevents from the external factors like in the weather pattern and the sunlight. And also, it does not require oxygen. The only disadvantage is here the time taken is longer than the aerobic composting one. And these are the factors that are affecting the composting. The first one is the aeration. Whereas in the aerobic, we need the oxygen, whereas in the anaerobic does not need the oxygen. That is, in the adequate quantity of oxygen is required, or it does not require. Depends upon the type of composting we used. And in the moisture. Usually in the composting, we need to maintain 20 to 40% of the moisture content in the organic layers of the composting substances. And the nutrient, the microbes that are used in the composting need nutrients like carbon, nitrogen, potassium, as well as phosphorus. And the temperature also we need to maintain the optimum. Initially, it was in the mesophilic condition. There is up to 20 to 40 degrees Celsius the composting condition were maintained. Then after some time it moves to the thermophilic condition. Thereby the temperature is increased to 60 degrees Celsius. There the thermophilic microorganisms only sustain. Then the lignin content, usually the plant material containing more lignin substances. It also slowly degradable one. Though it is a slowly degradable one, it enhances the porosity of the compost. Thereby, some quantity of the lignin also we need to maintain in the composting. And the pH, it is usually around the neutral value. Thereby, the microbes that are effectively live in the organic residues. These are the factors that are affecting the composting. So, we need to maintain all these factors in the optimum level to get an effective compost. Then how the compost we do? The first we need to prepare a pit. That is nothing but a pit or a trench is usually in the depth of 1 meter. 1 meter in the depth, and the length and breadth may vary depends upon the composition of the waste and the landscape. Then the pit slope is about 90 degree, thereby it prevents the water logging. And then the filling material, usually in the composting, the soil as well as the organic residues, like plant and the leaves litter, and also the food waste, and also the mixture of waste consisting of metal, plastics, all are used in the composting, uh, were filled alternatively, and then it was mechanically or manually aerated, depends upon the type of composting we used. And also by sprinkling water, we need to maintain the moisture content. Periodically we need to check the temperature of the composting, and also uh, by which type of the aeration and the moisture or the type of composting we used, that components present in this need to be checked. Uh, Thereby the filling of the pit is prepared, and after some period of time, usually from the 4 months to 6 months time, the final compost product is ready. It was usually used for the crop, for the fertilizer purposes. That is soil conditioning, the final compost were used. The different types of the compost are windrow composting, passively aerated windrow composting, bin composting, in acyl composting, and vermicomposting. And this slide shows the different types of the compost we used. The first one, as we see, is the windrow composting. Windrow composting is nothing. That is it consists of the organic residues that are placed in the long rows of piles. And also here the wind is used for the drying, thereby it is called as windrow. Here first what we need to do means the mixture of MSW waste is shredded, and then it was alternatively filled by the soil material as well as the MSW, and it was also it was layered by the cow dung for the microbial growth, whereas if it is in the anaerobic case. And the cow dung we used is not a fresh one. We need to pre-digest it for about 6 to 10 days. Thereby it prevents the increase in the temperature. And then after that 4 to 6 months, we get the final product as need to be sealed or screened to remove the metal and the plastic substances and get the final compost one. The next type is the passively aerated windrow composting. This too similar to windrow composting. Here one additional perforated pipe is incorporated on the heap of organic waste. That is, this perforated plate is mainly used to supply the oxygen and also remove the any gases that generated while decomposing the organic residues, or the moisture content, excess of moisture content, as well as the heat and the heap were removed. This one having the advantage of by supplying oxygen as well as remove the unwanted heat and the gases. Thereby it maintains the optimum moisture and the temperature in this type of composting. The next one is the bin composting. In that what we do means usually the organic residues were keep in the container or a vessel. It was a closed one to maintain the temperature as well as the aeration. But what we do is we need to give the forced aeration as well as the mechanical or manual turning of the organic waste is needed. Here, whereas in the in-vessel composting, here too it was carried out in the vessel, and all the actually the in-vessel composting, the bin composting is a smallest form of in-vessel composting. Here too the similar thing, we need to do the forced aeration as well as the mechanical turning of the organic waste. And after a period of decomposition time, the compost is removed from the vessel. The first type is the vermicomposting. In that, nothing but we introduce the earthworms into the organic waste. Thereby, it degraded the organic substances and getting the final compost as a product. The what we discussed here is the comes in the words in this slides. Now coming to in detail of the vermicomposting. Vermicomposting, as mentioned earlier, here the earthworms were used for composting the organic residues. The composting we use the mixed MSW, whereas in the vermicomposting we use purely the organic waste, organic residues alone. And it was carried out by three different types of the earthworms. The first one is the epigenetic, endogenic, and another one is aniseic. First, we coming to epigenic. Epigenic is nothing but it was also known as the surface dwellers, and it was on the surface of the earth. It usually uses the decaying plant materials and the leaf residues and other organic residues on the soil. And in the epigenic, it is usually dark pigmented one. And due to this dark pigmented one, and it was also lived in the surface, this dark pigmentation is protect them from the UV light of the sunlight, and also it consists of thick muscles. Thereby, it protect themselves from any of the surface predators. And due to the thick muscle, it was a fast moving one. And the most common epigenic worm types are Eosinophilia, Eosinea andrea, and Eudrilus eugenia. These are the common epigenic worms. And also for the